If they can pull off a successful competition this year after everything that happened last year, well, this could be a more impressive comeback story than Tia-Clair Toomey's performance at Rogue so soon after having a baby. This coming weekend brings the return of the European Championships, a competition that is known to many in the CrossFit world for all the wrong reasons. And if you don't know what those reasons are, I have a number of videos from last year that explains what happened. But there are many changes this year. A new venue is one of them, but more importantly, a new team running things behind the scenes. So what does that mean for the European Championships? What should we expect to see, and what challenges are they facing? And what do we need to see to consider it a successful event? And if it is a success, what does that mean for 2024? Well, the European Championships had been popping up on my Instagram feed a lot recently. People were tagging them in as they did the qualifiers or just preparing for this coming weekend. And then I actually spoke to a few people that were going to the event to judge or to work there. And that's when I started to really get interested to see what was going on, considering everything that had happened the previous year. Now, a lot of things had changed. For example, I knew who was no longer in charge, but I didn't know who had come in to take their place. So I reached out to the European Championships and I had a lovely call with Johnny from 2BP Events, who explained exactly what was going on. So we spoke about what's happening now this year with the European Championships and potentially the future in 2024 and beyond. Now, if you've never heard of 2BP Events or 2Bro Pro Events, they primarily run bodybuilding competitions. So they came on last year to sort of bail out the European Championships to make sure that everybody got the money that was owed, but the same management team was still running everything. So it wasn't actually until about mid-September this year that they actually took over running the event itself as well. Now, it's really important that we keep that in mind with regards to tempering our expectations, because that means a lot of things were already put in place before they started to take over running the event. So that basically means that they're trying to manage a situation that they didn't fully create themselves. For example, they didn't choose the venue, or maybe more importantly, the date. As I said, it is running this coming weekend. That's the 25th and 26th of November. And that means that it is running the same weekend as a Graft event, the Battle for Middle Ground Winter Soldiers, as well as Hyrox London. So Hyrox being as big as it is, and the Graft events having a really solid team of judges and volunteers, means the challenging task of finding judges and volunteers to work at their event, well, that's already difficult, but now it's that much harder. Now, while a number of things are outside of their control, I do think that makes it very interesting to see what they're able to pull off. Because if in this situation they can pull off a decent event where everyone has fun, the podium athletes get their money and people leave happy, well, I would say that's a success. But if they can do that in this situation, well, what would they be able to do given an entire year of planning in 2024? Now, Johnny did share a few spoilers of maybe what we could expect to see in 2024, but I will hold on to them for now. Now, of course, I did double check just to make sure that they have the money for the podium athletes this year, and it sounds like it's all good on that front. Now, looking at the event itself as an event, what can we see? Well, looking at the online qualifiers, obviously they had a vast reduced number compared to previous years, but that's going to be expected considering the bad press it had last year. And as I mentioned, yes, it has a new venue. They've moved down to Somerset. They are in Shepton Mallet at the Showering Pavilion, so that's not too far from where I live, but maybe more importantly, a more reasonable sized venue than last year, and it even has things like free parking, so that's a bonus. Now, as for the workout side of things, it looks like that's all being organised by Matt Salis. So fair warning if you are going and taking part, because he does have the Guinness World Record for the most burpees done in 12 hours. Now, of course, Guinness refers to these as chest to ground burpees, but we know they're the only burpees that count. Now, if you had asked me about the European Championships 6 months ago, I probably would have struggled to find anything positive to say at all. But now I am really interested to see how things turn out this year. It definitely feels like they are being forced to fulfill a number of promises made by somebody else. But the impression I got was that they just don't want to disappoint the athletes that have already signed up. And the things I'm hearing are positive. the prize money's in place, the goodie bags for the athletes, making sure that they have a warm-up area, a recovery zone. It's all the simple things that you would really hope a competition is thinking about. So I'm really hopeful that this will be a good experience for the athletes that take part this weekend. And again, the impression I get from speaking to them is that they're very aware this year is a rebuild. They are just fulfilling promises. They're making sure that the people signed up will have a good event. If it is a success to whatever degree we determine that to be, that can set them up in a better position for next year. And that will be interesting to see. Can they rebuild a brand that had such a PR nightmare last year? And don't you think it's interesting that it's a bodybuilding events company coming in to put on an event in the CrossFit space? And yes, I know it's not a CrossFit licensed event, but we know who goes to these competitions. And I also wonder if for CrossFit to grow, or these kind of events to grow, cultivating more relationships in the fitness space, well, that's got to be a good thing, right? And as always, I'm curious to know what people think. So what do you think? What do they need to do to consider this a success? What do they need to do to redeem themselves in the eyes of the community? Would you personally go and take part, spectate, judge at an event if there's new management in, but remembering what had happened in the previous year? And speaking of the previous year, thinking back, I think the best way to sum it up was over-promising and under-delivering. And this year, well, it seems like that's been completely flipped on its head. The impression I get is that they're very much under-promising, and I really hope that means they will be over-delivering.